Hi everyone. So I've been away over the last couple of days and consequently I haven't responded to any messages, and the reason for that is that I've been attending a meeting and an event in Manchester, which was a 19 nurses meeting, an event organised by the organisation 19 Nurses. Obviously, as you may have imagined, it's related to Lucy's case. So I should firstly say that while we would have loved to, I'm not. I was involved in organising it to a certain extent. I don't want to overplay my role. I helped arrange a few things, but I'm not a primary organiser and I'm not a nurse, as you may have noticed. So I certainly wasn't a founder of this organisation or primarily involved in the organisation of the meeting, but I know the people that founded it quite well, and I was a little bit involved. So I don't want to make it sound like I was organising it. But nevertheless, we would have loved to have thrown it wide open to anyone and everyone, but there's a certain degree of discretion that was required for various reasons. I'm sure you can imagine some of those reasons. So we had to keep things a little bit low key. But it was held at Manchester University, and there were numerous speakers. There were speakers from the Innocence Project. So this is an organisation. It's affiliated with universities. I'm not an expert on the Innocence Project. I may have a guest on in the future who's very much associated with the Innocence Project, who may be able to tell you more about it. And it was, to some degree, explained that they're affiliated with universities anyway, and they help people that are innocent, as the name would suggest, that are suffering with miscarriages of justice. So there were several speakers who were related to the Innocence Project. There were speakers from 19 Nurses, as would be expected. And then we had friends of the channel, Stephanie Davies and Martin Pittman, both spoke. And Mark McDonald spoke. I won't mention all of the other speakers. Some of them are known to me, but they're all related to miscarriage of justice and Lucy's case. The whole thing was filmed by a friend of mine, so these videos will be made available on YouTube. It's possible that some of the videos will be on this channel. I've discussed this with the founder of 19 Nurses, and I want to be respectful to them and make sure that they get the chance to post them first. That's what should happen, because they organised the event. But it has been mentioned to me that I may have some of the videos to post on this channel. If it doesn't, that's not important to me. It's just important that they get out. But if we sort of discuss it and decide that it's the best way to do it, then I may make some of the videos available on this channel at some point. But I'm not expecting to do that because I don't own the videos and I didn't produce them or film them, and it's not my event, but they may be. But they'll certainly be on YouTube, and you'll certainly be able to watch all of the all of the talks and all the presentations, which lasted for... we went way over the time we were supposed to be there. We got turfed out of the building by like security just said, right, you've got to leave now, we're closing the building. So there's a good, I guess there'll be 7 hours on film. The event went from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m, but we had a little break for lunch. Did we even have a break in the afternoon? We were supposed to have a break, but I don't think we even did. I think it would be pretty much 7.25 to 7.5 hours of talks, and it was brilliant. It was a brilliant event. I really commend the organisers for doing such a great job, and hopefully it's going to be a really positive thing for Lucy and Lucy's case. I don't want to go over all of the details related to everyone who spoke and everything that was said, because it will come out in the videos, and I don't want to steal the thunder of that. I just wanted to make this video to give a few reflections on where Lucy's case stands at this point in time, and also the event itself. So the first thing I would say was it was very emotional. There were a lot of emotional speeches from people who've been personally affected by various relevant aspects that are related to Lucy's case. And you wouldn't think, a certain number of people, it was quite a large number of attendees there, and a lot of very credentialed people. And a lot, they were very intellectual, very intelligent, very articulate speeches that were given. You wouldn't think that would be an emotional roller coaster, but it was. There were some really dark and sad moments, and then there were some uplifting and happy and positive moments of hope. And there were several incredibly powerful speeches that I know you will get to see eventually. Whether I'll either signpost you to them, or I may post some of them on the channel as is deemed appropriate. But I want to emphasise as well, if you're a medical professional, then particularly a nurse, obviously, you can join the organisation 19 Nurses. It's a grassroots campaign group that delivered a letter to 10 Downing Street, so that was featured during the day. I'd obviously heard about it, but I'd not seen the pictures. So it was, it was kind of cool to see people that I know and know quite well outside 10 Downing Street. And yeah, it was very emotional, because there was some people have been through some incredibly difficult experiences. And I'll speak about this more towards the end. But yeah, some of the things that we heard were very moving, and the people that saying they were moved, and why wouldn't you be after what they've been through? I think overall the event strongly emphasised the profound failings in criminal justice, healthcare and related institutions. I mean, I'm being very generous to describe them as failings, because it would be difficult not to characterise some of the things as anything other than outright corruption, but it certainly highlighted failings, if you want to describe it in the most generous terms possible. And I felt very strongly about this, because some of those quote unquote failings relate to people that I know personally now, who I care about, and to see what they've been through at close quarters and the effects that's had on them is awful, when they've done nothing wrong. But I won't go into that too much, because I'll have to end up discussing the specifics. But it is awful. It's awful what happens to people, because institutions are intransigent and they can't accept error, and everyone closes ranks. It's just awful. And Lucy's just yet another barometer of that. And I've said before, and I hate to say this, I don't get any pleasure from saying this, but I feel like her case had to happen. It had to happen, because otherwise it's just going to keep going out. It'll happen over and over and over again, and it'll never change. And until we address that, there'll be many more miscarriages of justice. And also, if there's not a quite concerted effort, not quite concerted, very concerted effort to address the systemic failings in healthcare, in criminal justice, in law enforcement, then they'll think they can continue the way they are now without any scrutiny, let alone any actual opposition, meaningful opposition and meaningful change. They'll just think, well, no one's even watching, we can just do whatever we want. That seems to be how it works now. So I really regret that Lucy, who, as far as I can see, I don't know her personally, of course. I'm only going on other people's second-hand account and my observations of her, which I think, and I have a quite significant amount of information about her as a person now. But she strikes me as a thoroughly decent human being. I'm sure. I mean, I think in my book I've described her as implausibly squeaky clean. I mean, she's now we hear she's the model prisoner, having been the model student, the model nurse, who just is dedicated to everything she does and sets herself high standards and works really hard and wants to succeed and wants to make a difference. She is the best among us, really. And it's tragic. It's horrifying that someone like that can be whether deliberately or inadvertently scapegoated. She's certainly been scapegoated. There's no doubt about that. To see her life torn apart, and I will share one remark that was made that was upsetting, and it's not a positive thing. And Mark McDonald said he'd seen pictures of Lucy. We've all seen the pictures of her socialising. She was obviously a social animal. She liked to go out and she had a bit of a social life, and she liked to have a drink and all these type of things. Perfectly normal things for a young woman. And you can see she was happy. She was a gleeful, joyful person. You can see, I always reflect on the pictures you see of her with Dawn. They look so close. Like, you can tell Lucy loves Dawn. Like, I'm sure the feeling's mutual, but you can just tell that Lucy values Dawn so highly. Just from, if a picture speaks 1,000 words, to me, those pictures, every time I see them, you can just see Lucy values Dawn so much. And it's awful that someone of that nature is this sacrificial lamb where her own life has been ruined. And Mark said, I haven't seen that Lucy. She's better than she was. When I first met her, she was broken, and he recounted this story, which he sort of mentioned in the ITV documentary, of her crying when he said, he told it slightly differently, but, Lucy broke down in tears when she heard him say, I think you're innocent. And he said, I've not seen the Lucy of the pictures. I've not seen the joyful Lucy. The innocent Lucy, you might describe it as. And he said, I don't know if we'll see that Lucy again. And I'm sure that doesn't come as an enormous surprise to people, because people have said in the comments, numerous people, countless times, her life has been ruined. How can she ever recover from this? And I've tried to say, well, I've seen Kathleen Folbig at close quarters. She was as well adjusted as it's possible to be. But Mark not unreasonably said her faith in everything has been completely destroyed. She doesn't have she doesn't know who to trust. She probably doesn't have a sense of trust. Obviously, her identity has been taken away because of her nursing. It's going to be a tough road back for her, based on what Mark said. But where there's life, there's hope, and she's still alive. And if we can get out of prison in a relatively short period of time, she still has enough of her life left to find some happiness and fulfillment, and she's going to be a hell of a lot better off out of prison than in prison. So that's what we have to focus on. We can't do anything about the water that's gone under the bridge and the way Lucy may feel now, and we don't know what she's going to feel like in the future. And we don't know what the consequences of prison and everything she's been through, the enormous trauma. It would be, obviously, I think we all know that there's going to be a significant impact. It's just unimaginable that there would be anything else. But we can't control that. We can't control what's happened, and we can't control all we can control is the controllables. In any situation, that's true. And the one thing we can control is our collective effort to help what you might describe as this campaign. And of course, that was the whole purpose of the event. So another excellent thing about this event was that there were several journalists in attendance. I don't think they would mind, but I won't mention any names. But you'll probably see some articles cropping up soon. It's very likely that you're going to see articles cropping up soon. So it was a very positive event in terms of outlining the level of scientific opposition to this conviction now. And then hopefully we're going to see this event publicised and articles written and so forth. We expect that to be the case. I'm just going to talk a little bit now about my experience of being there. So, of course, I'm quite recognisable now. So that's a very strange thing, but obviously it takes a little bit of getting used to when everyone knows who you are. But it's nice. overall, it's a massive positive. I mean, I'm really grateful for the fact that I'm a recognisable figure that people have say very nice things to me all the time. And the organisers asked me to wait on the ground floor as people were arriving because it was on the third floor. And virtually everyone that walked through the door knew who I was. There were people there. I sat at a table in the hotel where we stayed, and I won't mention any names because I'm not going to mention any names, but someone who I've known for a very long time, or known of for a very long time, she just immediately knew who I was and was like, said some very nice things to me, which is very strange because when I first realised who was following me and how many people, and then the calibre of the people, and then obviously doctors and professors, and then, everyone seems to be following the channel, and that's very humbling. And it also makes me realise that I've got a responsibility to, maintain my standards, and that people are looking to me to, produce something of quality, I suppose. That's all I can do, and try and help the campaign as much as I possibly can. But it's if you're watching this video, and if you've commented, and if you followed me, and if you subscribed, then it's down to you, really. It's not down to anything that I've done. I've obviously done the best that I possibly could, and will continue to do the best that I possibly can with everything that I post. Any videos that I make, and anything that I write. But without support, it's all meaningless. It never would have got anywhere. So, I'm enormously grateful for the support that I've received, because when I begun properly thinking, I've obviously been interested in this since the day Lucy was convicted, but it was really around April or May 2024 that I've started to think it would be when The Guardian and the Daily Telegraph, so that was in May 2024, it would have been around that time I started to think there's now, because national newspapers have said something, and I'm sure they wanted to publish before then, but they were finally able to publish in May after the retrial of Child K. I was thinking at that time, there could now be a climate where a book can be written and published. So, and I knew that I had the experience to do it. So, and I really thought I might be the only person in the world that can do this. I might be the only person that has the knowledge of the case. Although I didn't have anywhere, even though I would have said I had a good grounding, a good level of knowledge at that time. Of course, it's much greater now, not least because a lot more information has come out. I thought, well, I've got a good grounding and knowledge in the case. I've got experience of writing many books previously. I obviously care very passionately about this, and then I'm not absolutely desperate to make money. So, and I'm not a materialistic person at all, as well, which helps, of course. So I might be the only person. I might be in a unique position in the world to be able to do this. So and I feel so strongly about this. And I remember thinking about, there's going to be a time, if you do this and you need to do it right. It's got to be done to the pedal to the metal. And there's going to come a time where you're not anonymous anymore. Well, it's safe to say that time has arrived, because I'm definitely in the Lucy Letby field, not anonymous now. And I guess increasingly I'll be even less anonymous than I am now. But I reached the point, and I had to think about whether I was willing to do that. And I thought, absolutely I am, because it's too important not to. This event made it even clearer that I made the right decision. I knew I had anyway, but it was so clear from this event that there just are enormous problems in the criminal justice system, in healthcare, in policing, in the way that people look at crime and think about crime, in the way that media report crime. And I think if you're in a position to make a difference, then you should. And I knew that I could make a difference, and I knew what needed to be done for me to be in a position to do that. And thankfully, everything has worked out better than I could have possibly hoped. But 18 months after doing that and thinking, right, now I need to do this and I need to do the best that I possibly can, and I need to start making the arrangements so that I can succeed. Thankfully, now I'm in a position where I can actually do it. And what this event made me enormously determined to do was to make a difference. And that was my only reason for being involved in the first place. But it was particularly seeing people that I know and respect enormously. And there were so many people in the room that I respect, and there's so many people that weren't there, that are in my community, that comment, that are in the Lucy Letby campaign, if you want to call it that I also respect enormously. But there were people up on the stage speaking who've, had, I don't know, I don't want to say their lives torn apart, but that would be an accurate description. Certainly their lives very seriously impacted by these failings, these institutional failings. And I say it's unbelievably generous to describe them as failings, because they could be described as outright corruption at times. And I just thought, well, it's more. I've always thought this is about criminal justice and not just Lucy. Obviously, we all care about Lucy's well-being, and what happened to her is appalling. But I mean, it's becoming increasingly obvious to me that I'll just spend the rest of my life working in this field in any way that I possibly can, and just trying to help and trying to make a difference. Lots of other people have done this previously. There were people from the Innocence Project who very selflessly give their time, often with very little encouragement and very little end product. But they just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it because they know that it's right. And I feel that if we can make a difference with Lucy's case, in a way we'll be rewarding them for everything that they've done, that a lot of which has been thankless tasks, that they're just battering their head against a brick wall and often not achieving any favourable outcomes for the people that have been wrongly convicted. And that's why Mark, absolutely correctly in my opinion, has made this a public campaign, because we need to campaign and we need stuff in and he said this he said this during his speech. I think it's okay for me to say this briefly. This was a question at the end. I think it's important for us to keep getting stuff in the media and keep pushing stuff out and keep making it prominent and keep having events and keep doing protests and keep saying stuff on social media and I can post YouTube videos. Others do a great job as well. It's just important for us to keep doing this and keep doing this and keep doing this, because it could be quite a while still. I mean, Marcus still talks about a retrial, and he talks about one happening, a few years into the future. So he's hoping that the CCRC will refer in summer next year, and that it might take another 8 months after that, I think he said, to get to the court, for the Court of Appeal to set a date. And then there'll be a certain period of time for the Court of Appeal. And then he's talking about maybe 2 years, because he says there'll be a retrial because that's what he believes will happen. So then it might take 2 years for that retrial to happen, and then we don't know how long the retrial itself would last. Obviously, the last one was 10 months. So you're looking, if you add all these amounts of time together, you're looking at bare minimum 3 years, of course. That's with some very generous arithmetic. It could be quite a bit more than 3 years. We don't know. We just don't know what's going to happen. But I mean, I made the estimate of, I think I wrote down in one of the comments, 2027 would be very optimistic. 2028 would be better than average. 2029 might be a bit below average. And 2030 would be well below average. And I would still say that's a realistic estimate. Maybe it's even slightly optimistic. Because from what Mark said, 2027 will be too early. Unless there's some extraordinary situation where Lucy's conviction is quashed, or it's not completely impossible that the CPS might decide we're not going to challenge this conviction because we haven't got any experts and there's nothing we can do and we're never going to win. But that's unlikely because, in my view, that's unlikely because they would just look daft and they like to pretend their convictions are credible. I mentioned recently that the guy at the Lost Prophets, the singer who was in prison, who was is no longer with us, shall we say? They prosecuted his girlfriend. His girlfriend was warning them for 4 years about his crimes, and not only did they not pay attention, they then prosecuted her. They lost in court, but they didn't apologise. The Crown Prosecution Service didn't say, yeah, you know what? They never do, because all they seem to be bothered about is their reputation as an institution. That's all of these institutions seem to be bothered about. It's like, oh, we don't want to look daft, and we want to pretend that we're fantastic. Well, you're obviously not. You're obviously not fantastic. So yeah, we don't quite know what the timescale is going to be. It might clearly not be as quick as we would want, but that's the system we're dealing with. It's awful, but we need to be very determined, and we need to stay the course, and we need to do whatever is possible to help Lucy. And remember at all times, we're not just talking about Lucy. That's important to us all because this is such an egregious, awful miscarriage of justice. We're talking about the systemic failure of our country and some of the most important institutions and some of the things that they should be the measure of a civilized society, that these systems function adequately. They just simply do not. That's very clear to me. It couldn't be clearer, frankly. So I'll just say finally, I must emphasise that because of what Mark said, I did feel more positive at the end of the event about Lucy's chances, even though I've just said it might not be as quick as you would want, but I felt more positive that the Court of Appeal won't just turn it away. And they won't, they'll, not just because of what Mark said, but because I can see the scientific power that is now bearing down on the Court of Appeal. And that is then coupled with very strong media pressure now. There's a lot of people now in the media, very credible journalists, very credible publications, who are committed to righting this wrong and continuing to write articles and doing anything they possibly can to continue to raise awareness, to keep this in the news, which is what we need to do. So this was certainly not a relentlessly positive event because there was a lot of dark stuff in there that needs to be discussed. But it was also something that left me feeling very positive because of what Mark said. And also, I must say, it's a real privilege to be part of such a wonderful group of people. And that's one of the, well, it's pretty much the only silver lining in this very, very dark cloud, is that I've met so many brilliant people, both in real life and virtually. And I will hold an event next year, 100%, when it's summer. Someone suggested Hyde Park, so I will hold one. Hopefully, I've got nearly 4,000 subscribers, and I don't know how many I'll have by then. So hopefully, 50% of my subscribers won't turn up because we will take over Hyde Park. I doubt that would happen, but it'll be interesting to see how many people do turn up. But it's something I really want to do. I think it'll be a really nice thing. So we'll see how that goes. But that's the first thing I wanted to say, is that that's the only silver lining for me of the whole thing, is that I've met so many amazing people, and there was a real kinship among people that were there, and I know people are just as determined as I am to make a difference, and I won't stop until Lucy is released, which is inevitable. It'll happen. It just needs to happen in the shortest time frame possible. And then that probably just to be the beginning for me, and I'll probably be doing this for many, many years to come, and it probably will have taken over my life, and I don't regret that because I feel strongly about it, and I think if you could do something to make a difference, you should. And the fight with regard to this, the last thing I want to say is, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, but I want to make this crystal clear so that you know, we're only in this position, and Lucy's only in this position because of you. It's because of back in August, is it 2022? It could be 2023. I mean, my grasp of time is not very good because it just feels like 10 years ago that Lucy was convicted. So probably I'm completely wrong. Yeah, it was 2023. I don't even know why I'm saying 2022. Anyway, whenever Lucy was convicted, and, she was officially at the time in the press deemed to be the worst human being in the world. And, we got all these horrible articles about her, and public opinion was dead set against her. And there was a few of us, and I was only posting on Reddit at the time. I didn't really have it even. I don't think even I had a Twitter account, or I certainly didn't use it. And obviously I wasn't on YouTube, and my name certainly wasn't known. But I was posting a little bit on Reddit, and you would encounter some opposition, but it was clear there were enough of us that I thought, well, we could start to form a campaign. But we were still very, very much in the minority. And if you remember what the mood and the climate was like at that time, it was relentlessly against us, enormously against us. The vast majority of people disagreed with us, condemned us even, and we still get a little bit of that, but it's very, very small now. And from those initial days, in the immediate aftermath of the conviction, where we were just a few voices up against this tsunami of opposition, you could describe it as, we've chipped away and chipped away and chipped away, and now it's the complete opposite. So anyone that's paying attention, if you go and look at the Channel 4 video that's recently been posted, I'm going to highlight this in a forthcoming video. The comments are just relentlessly pro-miscarriage of justice, pro-innocence, and I must say against Dr. Evans, who receives a lot of criticism, deservedly so, of course. And that's not because of the national newspapers. That's not because of the documentaries that have been on TV. Those documentaries and those newspaper articles have happened because of social media. Because I know the New Yorker was the first media publication to print. Peter Hitchens wrote a couple of things in columns, but the first proper article was the New Yorker. And Clancy was the person that referred that to Rachel Aviv to write that article. And Clancy didn't get her view out the media because there wasn't any. There hadn't been any articles. I'm sure she pieced together bits and pieces from that, but she would have seen a lot of stuff on social media. And I know she read some of my articles. I didn't know it at the time. I mean, I've got to know her quite well now. But if it wasn't for people making a grassroots effort on social media, then we would not be where we are now, because it wouldn't have gotten in front of people as quickly as it did. The information wouldn't have been out there. It would have been hard to piece things together just from media, mainstream media, that was relentlessly pro-guilt at the time. So it's only because of social platforms and social posting that initial spark happened with the New Yorker. And from the New Yorker, the Guardian, the Daily Telegraph have picked up the baton. And then it's just been one thing after another since then. And we're in the position today where people that know about the subject, it's at least 95%. I mean, that sounds like an exaggeration, but it's not. Look at the Channel 4 video and look at the comment section. It's now relentlessly, this is an unsafe conviction. This is a miscarriage of justice. Lucy's innocent. Dr. Evans is a charlatan. That's just comment after comment after comment. And that's not because of me. It's not because of say, the media. It's not because of documentaries. It's not because of the people that may seem more prominent in this campaign, I suppose. It's because of you. Without you, this wouldn't happen, and Lucy would be in a much worse position than she is now. And please don't doubt that, because I've mentioned again before, the Birmingham 6 is probably the most famous miscarriage of justice in British history at this point in time. It will be Lucy Letby eventually. Already, you could argue it is Lucy Letby, it just hasn't been officially acknowledged as being a miscarriage of justice. The Birmingham 6 took 16 years to come out of prison. Basically, nothing happened for 12 years. We're looking at, with Lucy, it happening much more quickly for her when this was a major prosecution, of course. And the reason nothing happened to Birmingham 6 is they had to wait 12, 13 years for a book to come out and then documentaries to come out. Whereas with Lucy, these things are happening much more quickly. That's because of social platforms. That's the sole difference between the two. And that's the only reason that Lucy's in a better position than anyone else that's ever been involved in a major miscarriage of justice and a conviction of this scale and prominence that is incorrect. Plainly incorrect. And as I say, that's because of you guys. And we just need to keep it up. You need to keep it up. We can't be complacent. We just need to keep hammering the message home day after day after day until it becomes an inevitability that Lucy Letby is innocent, as we know that she is. So I just wanted to report back on this event. I was quite tired. I got home late last night. And I'll hopefully have an interview for you in my next video. And the last thing I just wanted to mention is that I'm going to do a live stream this evening. So this video will be going out on Sunday. So I'll be doing a live stream on Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Because I haven't done one for a while and I quite fancy doing one. This was a very lazy video in many ways. Well, I just thought people would like to hear about this, and I didn't have time to record anything too involved. So I just wanted to report back and just let you know how things are progressing with the campaign, the contribution you've made, where I see things are, and just to let you know about 19 Nurses. And please do follow them. Please do join 19 Nurses if you're able to do so, if you're a relevant professional. And just keep doing what you're doing, because we're having an enormous effect already, but it's a long road ahead still. I know no one wants to hear that. I know people want to hear Lucy's going to come out of prison next year. She's not going to come out of prison next year. So we need to stay the course. We need to be determined. I can promise you that I will do that, and I will be here for as long as it takes. And I'll probably be doing this the rest of my life. I probably won't ever work on anything else, or hopefully I'd like to do some other projects eventually, but I'm sure this will consume many years of my life. And please be advised that you are as needed, more needed, not as needed, more needed than myself, because it's a numbers game. We need the numbers. We need the pressure on social media. We need the stuff in the media. The only way you get stuff in the media is by keep highlighting things, keep digging up things, keep finding things, keep posting stuff on social media, keep highlighting the problems with this case. So please just keep doing what you're doing, and thank you for all the support. It really means so much.